Chapter 24. A few minutes later, Georgia sat at the kitchen table, huddled over a mug of hot chocolate. She kept taking deep breaths, forcing herself to stop trembling. Slappy lay sprawled on his side on the kitchen worktop, where Georgia had dropped him. 3 good deeds, he thought bitterly. I did my 3 good deeds. I should be safe. I should be home free. But that little brat upstairs had ruined them all, wiped them all out. Thanks to her, another day has passed, and I'm still at 0. Why is she doing this to me? Is Stella so jealous of her sister that she's totally out of control? Wrapping a kid in the drapes is something I would do just for fun, Slappy thought. But Stella? She must be totally unbalanced. She's sick. Mrs. Boonshaw faced the kitchen window, her back to Georgia, and talked in soft tones to Mrs. Warren on the phone. Something is wrong here, she was saying. Georgia would never do that. Georgia is so responsible. Something is definitely wrong here. A few minutes later, she clicked off the phone and turned to face Georgia. I'm afraid Mrs. Warren still hasn't calmed down. I didn't do it, Mom, Georgia wailed, slamming the mug down, hot chocolate splashing over the top. I know you didn't, her mother replied softly. She chewed her bottom lip. I know you wouldn't do anything like that, Georgia, but do you have any idea who did do it? Georgia tried to swallow some hot chocolate, but choked. She shoved the mug away from her. She motioned in the direction of her sister's room. Mom, you don't think that Stella... Mrs. Boonshaw sighed. I don't know. Your sister's been doing such crazy things lately. But to sneak across the street in the rain and tie the little boy to the drapes? After dinner, she kept asking me where I was going, Georgia reported. She had to know. It seemed so important to her to know where I'd be. Mrs. Boonshaw narrowed her eyes thoughtfully. Then she stared hard at Slappy, sprawled on the counter. Ever since that dummy arrived, she muttered. Georgia blinked. What? What about Slappy? Such terrible things have been happening, Mother replied. She pulled out a chair and sat down across from Georgia. She squeezed Georgia's hands. Ever since you brought that dummy home, your sister has just not been right. She always was jealous, I suppose. She always had to compete with you, Georgia. But when you brought that dummy home... Mom, you can't blame Slappy, Georgia protested. Stella isn't interested in puppets or ventriloquism. She never was. Her mother gazed at Slappy, frowning. Georgia, maybe you could put Slappy away for a while? You know, hide him away in the closet. But Mom, just for a little while, Mrs. Boonshaw added. Just until we get Stella straightened out. She sighed. We have to deal with Stella, and if the dummy is creating a problem for her, it might make it a little easier if we put Slappy away for a while. No way, Slappy thought. A wave of panic swept over him. If they lock me in the closet, I'm history. I'm dead meat. I'll never get my 3 good deeds done, and Jimmy or James Karras will put me away forever. That settles it. I have no choice. I have to take care of Stella. While she's still around causing trouble, I don't stand a chance. Mom, I can't put Slappy away now, Georgia said, shaking her head, tears brimming in her eyes. I've been working so hard to act with him. That just isn't fair. Her mother stood up. She suddenly looked very tired. Just think about it, okay, Georgia? She said wearily. I know you want things to be okay around here, so think about it. Okay, Mom, Georgia agreed. She took one last sip of hot chocolate, then she gathered up Slappy and made her way to the room. What are we going to do, Slappy? She asked him, holding him up in front of her. Mom wants to blame everything on you, but it's not your fault. What are we going to do? She put him down carefully on the floor at the foot of her bed. I know what I'm going to do, Slappy thought. He waited until Georgia was asleep. Then he stood up, balling his wooden fingers into tight, hard fists, and stepped across the hall to Stella's room.